Hello, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you today. So I'm Gianluca. I work as a lead manager in Still, part of the Kion Group. Just I would like to tell you what is Kion Group. Basically, Kion is based on three pillars, the three segments: the industrial trucks and services, the supply chain solution, and the corporate services. We basically, just to give you an idea about the dimension of the group, we have something like 42,000 colleagues spread worldwide, and the numbers related to the 2023, at the end of the year, we closed the year with revenues around over 11 billion euros, and with an EBIT margin of near to 7%. We are the first group worldwide in industrial truck. Sorry, we are the first in EMEA and the second at global level, while we are the first in supply chain solutions. As you see, we have basically a global position. We have factories worldwide, and I'm here now in Luzzara, in the north of Italy, near Reggio Emilia. So Luzzara is a small factory. We are around 400 colleagues, and we produce something like 24,000 trucks per year. This is our main product. You can see forklift, transpallets, and all what is required for warehouse, let's say, material. So let's go to the topic of this presentation. You see, basically, this presentation is focusing on how to manage the strategic evolution, strategic development inside a VUCA environment. So inside the high variability environment. So you know what VUCA means: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So the point is how to manage a company strategy and factory strategy where when we expect that real life, what happens in real life in the external market, could disrupt our strategic planning. And I'm sorry, I can hear some voice behind.
Gianluca, it seems to be okay with me. I don't know where it come from, but
okay, perfect. So I will go on. So basically the point is how we can adapt our strategy models in order to face this volatility. So the question is, it is clear that in something like that, in an environment like that, it is really important to have the capability to change goal settings, to adapt them to the new question coming from outside. And this can be done using frequent review cycles, so frequent PDCAs, and granting a communication across different teams. And it means that basically we should base our strategy on agile resource allocation. So it means that putting all together these points, it means that we should invest on the ownership and autonomy of the teams, of the operative teams, who are the ones who really put in practice who execute the strategy. So in order to follow this step, we decided to implement the Hoshin Kanri methodology. Hoshin Kanri is a framework, is a methodology, is what we could call also an operative system. Why Hoshin Kanri? Why we thought that it could be helpful for us? Because we expected to be helped by Hoshin Kanri in order to set our long-term objective, vision, mission, so to help us to define our strategy, in order to basically define clear long-term objective. We expect that it could help us to break down objectives in actionable steps. It means it should help us to step by step to take us by hand in order to reach our strategic goals. Another important point is that the framework helps to reduce the silos effects and to improve collaboration among different functions. Um, so we can call it horizontal collaboration, but in parallel, also it could support the vertical alignment among different layers of the organization. Another point is, in order to be sure to be on time, to be effective in the development of the strategy, it is really important to be capable to have structured follow-ups in order to be sure that all the projects part of this framework are effective. The last point is the continuous improvement. Embedded in this Hoshin Kanri model is the possibility to, is mandatory to focus on continuous improvement because all the framework is based on continuous PDCA cycles with different layers. So PDCA nested one inside the others. And so A3 project management and problem solving. So I will go in detail in each of these steps. So starting from the long-term objective, vision, and direction. What we use is, we are using the normal canvas, what we can. So the first one is the business strategy canvas. Again, we use these frameworks because they help us to, with simple questions, to drive the development of our strategy. So starting from the vision, what does it mean? Vision is the direction for the future. So basically, vision needs to define clearly what we expect in more than 5 years, so in long term. Define the vision means to define some visual concept with a positive impact, something emotional, something simple that could be easily communicated inside the organization and outside. After the vision, we can go to define the mission, so the purpose, identity, what is the positive contribution that our organization could give. The third point is are the values. What are our common conditions? I think that the values are really critical in order to increase the probability to have everybody on board in the organization, because the values are basically the basis for decisions, the standard behaviors. So the values are what can be easily maybe communicated at each level of the organization, and maybe is the easiest way to let everybody in the organization take the right decision. In the previous slides, I said something about the importance to have autonomous teams. I think because we are convinced that at each level of the organization, autonomous teams are the ones who can grant this flexibility and agility in order to have a quick reaction to disruption coming from outside. So all these agility is based on the values. Then, once we have defined this, the basic line, we can go to develop our real strategy. So strategy means where we think, what are our selling points or competitive advantages. Based on the strategy should be based on the competitive advantages, and all the projects resulting should be based on what we consider our strengths or our weaknesses. So the strategy should be something related to the medium term, medium or also long term. And at the end of the day, the final question is how we want to measure our strategy. What are our basic breakthrough objectives, breakthrough targets? So what are the significant changes that we want to implement during the strategy development and strategy implementation? So we know that the breakthrough objectives cannot be too many. We put to ourselves a limit of 3 because we cannot expect to have on a yearly level transformation with more than 3 breakthrough objectives. So going to the next step, after setting long-term objectives, after setting the strategy, we can now move to another framework, another template, which help us to go in detail about give us the possibility to go in detail in the definition of the content. We use the SWOT matrix. You know, we have in the SWOT the internal part made of strengths and weaknesses, and the external part made of opportunities and threats. So the first part, the internal part, means that requires to have a self-analysis about what are our strengths, our weaknesses, and we use the value chain model in order to make this kind of analysis. You know, value chain model basically is made of an analysis of what are our primary activities, and the point is to be capable to define what are our again our selling points, our strengths, our competitive advantages, and what are our improvement points that are maybe the most critical ones in our internal analysis. On the other hand side, then we have the analysis of what the market is, what are the status of competitors or legal evolution. So we use the PESTEL model, where PESTEL means political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. So we are trying to, when we develop our strategy, we try to understand what is happening around us, answering to these questions. Next step is then we can go, after we have defined our strategy and written down our SWOT, we can try to formalize it using another template. You can see this is the X matrix template, and it helps to develop the logic flow of the strategy development. It helps so to develop, to break down in steps and drives us in the different steps to be followed to arrive to the, let's say, real implementation of the strategy. Starting from the west part, so the left part of the matrix, we start to put here to write down the strategic concept that we want to follow up and implement during the next year. Then the next step is to quantify the impact of the strategy. We use the profit and loss. So we try to put and to translate in numbers, high-level numbers, what are the expected results of our strategic initiatives. Then the other part of the matrix is focused on the KPIs. What are the operative KPIs or top-level metrics that we will use in order to constantly monitor what are the results of our activities. Then, if we go to the north part, the top part, what are our tactics? So now, at this point, we can really start to talk about what are the real projects that we want to implement in order to be capable to foster, to support the strategy that we defined. Last step is ownership. Who will drive, who is going to drive these projects? And we use here basically a Rashi matrix in order to understand ownership and required support. You can see that in this framework, the ownership part is really important in order to understand also the workload for the people who will be involved. So for the managers who will lead the projects, so the tactics that we will deploy during the year. In order to deploy these tactics, in order to follow up them, we implemented the A3 logic. So each tactic will be translated in an A3 in order to, let's say, we can say another template that we are implementing. So very important in all this framework is the coherence. Basically, it is mandatory to be sure that all the blocks are coherent each other. So the first coherency check is between the strategy and the profit and loss. Then between the profit and loss and the KPIs. So numbers should be coherent. Lagging indicators should be coherent with the leading indicators. Without coherence, maybe we will waste our time and resources doing something that doesn't help to reach the strategic targets. Again, same logic with the tactics and the KPIs. Each tactic, each project should be coherently measured through KPIs. And then again, the coherence check with, again, to close the loop, tactics and strategy. Last point is for sure the ownership. Owners should have capability, should be capable, and should have capacity to, let's say, drive the projects. Going on, let's say, okay, I spoke about coherence. So if we go to the next step of the Hoshin Kanri logic, we see, I told you that we expect it to lead us to, or support us in the structure, the follow-up of the action. So coherence is really important in this logic between our X matrix, so our local strategy, and the global strategy. We are part of a group. So we cannot think that a factory can have an independent strategy far from what is the global strategy. So in order to grant this coherence, we plan regular catchballs between the global function and our, say, and the responsible of our local strategy, who is our plant manager. Then again, talking about coherence and regular follow-up, we plan regular catchballs between the owner of the strategy and the managers, who are the owners of the tactical projects, so the A3, what we call the level 1 A3. In order to have then an overview, an easy overview of how we are driving, how our strategy is proceeding, we can summarize the KPIs inside the bowling chart. So we do this local catch ball on a monthly basis. And so monthly we check we follow up the status of our tactical projects. Then again, we have another level. We can go with our PDCA on another level. You know that a project, a tactic, can be, let's say, quite wide. So it is really easy that one tactical manager would require the support of other projects, of other managers. One level 1A3 could generate more than one level 2A3. So again, we use the logic of leading indicators and lagging indicators. So everything should support and should be coherent with the global strategy. So using this logic of coherence, you know that, let's say that the Hoshin help us, so is really working if all this strategic approach is fully coherent with the shop floor management. So we basically naturally implement the same logic, so from the top strategy up to the definition of the KPIs to be used inside all the structured meetings we have in the organization, from monthly, weekly, daily, up to the shift meetings. All the, let's say, meetings using the logic of the normal shop floor management, all the meetings should be based on the logic of coaching from the manager and feedback collection from the, let's say, bottom up. Okay, let's go on to the next step of the strategy approach. Okay, so next point, next value added of the Hoshin Kanri approach is the facilitation of continuous improvement and adaptability. So I told you Hoshin is basically a sequence of nested cycles, PDCA cycles. So our strategy, we can summarize it as a cycle going from January to December. It is our strategy execution. The strategy is made of A3, what I can call as level 1 A3, year 0 A3, so current year. And every time that, every month, we make our check of our PDCA, we use the common Toyota Kata approach. We use the Toyota Kata question, you know, what is the target, what is the current situation, what we expected, what was the step, what we expected, what happened, what we learned, and what is the challenge for next step. So we start with the next cycle and the next implementation. So our strategy, as I said, is nested inside the global strategy. What is the group strategy that is a longer time. So we cannot expect to have a 1 year strategy from the global. So they should move years in advance in order to let each factory move. Then during the summertime, let's say between June, July, we receive from the global the indication of the strategy through standard in a standard system, in a standard way, through OKR, through breakthrough objective, and we receive so the targets for next year. So we receive it through a standardized meeting, a catchball, and here we start to define the future strategy, making a coherency check with the current one, with the level zero, with the year zero A3, so with the current level 1 A3. Next step is, okay, in the summertime, usually the budgeting phase starts. It is really important to have the strategy, the next year strategy development in parallel with the strategy, with the budget, sorry. Because the higher risk is to have a strategy without financial support. Because if the strategy and the budget are not aligned, maybe the high risk is to have that we don't have the financial capability to close the projects. So going on, so the next step are quite easy. We have other catchballs in order to align our strategy with the global one. Then in the last catchball of the year, in December, we can check if our current tactics were successful, if they are coherent with the tactics of next year, year plus one, and we can start with the development of the new year strategy. So you can see that each month, basically, we should ask ourselves if the tactic is still valid. We make this check monthly, while on quarterly basis, we check if the strategy is still valid or if it needs any revision. So why maybe the strategy could require a change? Because, disruptive events happen. So, we all experienced the COVID, or now during the last years, we know that European market is, let's say, full of new competitors coming from outside. We suffered in the past also disruption related to operational and organizational transformation. So all this disruption will be a trigger in order to revise the strategy and, let's say, start again the cycle to modify, to change and adapt the strategy. Let me go on. So, going to some practical example. This is an example of the best. So, external analysis, we are just now developing for this year strategy. You can see that answering to the political questions, we realize that there is a big geopolitical instability. Trade barriers are increasing. So in a situation like this, in a really VUCA environment, we realize that next year we expect the shift from a growth, volume growth strategy to a stabilization of the volumes. So now for next year, we have the chance to shift our tactical focus from capacity increase to robustness and efficiency. So in few words, it means to focus on the improvement of our organization through different tools, like, for example, the full lean implementation, in order to be sure to reinforce our organization to be ready to, let's say, to support future volume growth. From internal analysis part, so from value chain model, and sorry, I could just show some strength of our organization. I'm not showing you our weaknesses that we found in the analysis, but okay, a few of them are focusing on our people. We realize that we have a high motivated people, colleagues. Our human resources is really working hard in order to increase competencies. And we have a big advantage made by our R&D. We have a local R&D capable, in charge to support the development of our own products, what we are going to use. So this cooperation with R&D and production, other function, so this capability of product customization, we think that it is one of our bigger strengths. So we are focusing in order to improve the time, time spent in order to develop products, new products. And so we are investing in agility, in increasing agility of our project management and product development. So our tactic, so you see at the end of the day, is to invest in the training in order to improve this side of our organization. So just to close, let's say that we could say that we see Hoshin not as a static system, but as a living tool in order to that should support all the improvement, let's say, of the company through continuous self-reflection. So it's like looking at ourselves every month, at least every month, at the mirror in order to search for our improvement points and our strengths. So we are investing so in order to increase the speed of our of these PDCA cycles and to embed them in our strategy management. So from strategic side, I would say that we are working to improve through Kaizen activities our organizational processes in order to increase more and more the team's autonomy, in order to increase, let's say, the agility of our organization, starting from the bottom layers, let's say, from the operative layers. And that's all from my side. I think we have maybe a couple of minutes if any question are asked. Roberto, you are on mute.
Thank you, Gianluca. So far, there's only one question that is from Samuele Pretini. I read it, but you can read on yourself also. But any case, for all people here, the vision is the product vision. This is a question. Where do you define your company vision? Why the company lives in the world in the period of time?
Okay, the vision is not only the product vision. Vision is basically we could say that vision is how we think that the world, the industrial world, or our business will be in, let's say, more than 5 years, let's say 10 years. In that environment, so in that vision, then we put ourselves the question, what will be our mission? What we will do in this kind of environment? So this is the way how we play. So Roberto, please could you remember me the second part of the question? Yes.
Yeah, can you read it?
Because I cannot read it. That's why I'm not.
I read it for you. Where do you define your company vision? And in brackets, why the company lives in the world in the period of time? Is it? I don't know how you can
It's
answer.
hard to catch the question. Really, I'm sorry.
Oh, there's another question just arrived now. What's
Maybe
your
we
current?
can. Yes.
Sorry,
Tell me. Go on, please.
What's your current PDCA cycle time? Do you measure it? At what level?
Okay, so let's say that PDCA, one level of PDCA is related to the A3, the tactical A3 development. And so we check those A3 on a monthly basis together with the owner of the strategy, so with our plant manager. So this is the higher level of A3 of PDCA we have in the factory. But on second level, so at level 2 A3, we have weekly for some of our managers who are managing higher complex projects. We have level 2 A3 where they manage even a weekly PDCAs in order to, let's say, drive or coach the evolution of this second level A3. So if we stay inside the strategic concept, maybe the weekly is the shortest PDCA we are following up.
Only last question, but the previous was done by Cedric. Next one is the last one because the time has gone. Is from Juan Diego. You mentioned the strategy is reviewed each quarter, but is your company reviewing also the 5 years and 3 year strategy? Can you explain?
Okay. Strategy, as a definition of strategy should be made of something that is really hard to be changed. So when you talk about strategy, a strategic concept, a strategic decision is something that you should not be capable to change easily. Because if you can change it easily, it's no more a strategy. So when you take a strategic decision, it should be really, really well thought. So to answer to your question, you cannot think to change the strategy every quarter or not even every year. But you can try to adjust something if you realize that through this regular check, there is something that maybe is no more valid or is obsolete. So this, again, a self-reflection helps you to understand better it, to refine it, to fine-tune it, and maybe to find also projects, tactics that are better supporting the strategy itself. So this is a kind of game, I told you, a kind of self-reflection game that, and so this is the way we see this kind of evolution, let's say. I don't know if I answered the question.
Okay, sorry guys, we have to close here the session to permit you to go to another one. But you can send us other questions. We can answer you in some way via email or something in some other.
Maybe I can try to answer to the first question that since it was not clear to me. Just
thank you very much to all of you. Thank you to Gianluca.
Thank you so much.